Hi there. Hope you're doing really well today, and welcome to Ask Daniel number 5, in which we will ask some questions from Vince, Sheldon, Patrick, from Dawn as well. And before we start, as always, nothing is medical advice, just general thoughts and comments that I hope will be helpful to anyone that's tuning in. And I will be trying to keep an eye out on. I'll be trying to keep an eye out in the comments section. At some point, I want to do real lives and just answer questions live. But anyway, if you have a comment, please comment right away, and I'll try to catch them. This said, let me move to my inbox here, and we'll get started with questions that have come in recently. Uh, in fact, as I'm opening that, let's just start with this question from Dawn, which I actually I missed during the time I was away on vacation. I was supposed to answer that back in December, but anyway, Dawn asked the one question here. I was wondering if some people are just naturally deeper sleepers inherently than others. Would love your thoughts. And I want to say the short answer to that one is yes. I do think some people, by nature, inherently genetically, tend to be quote unquote better sleepers or good sleepers. Some people are just more inclined to fall asleep easy, have deeper sleep, and part of that, I believe, is kind of personality. Some of us are more of thinkers. We tend to, we have more active brains, if you will. We analyze things. And some people are more, less reflective, maybe just kind of more intuitive and don't think that much. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And again, I think that is very genetically driven. I often have patients in clinic that have trouble sleeping, and then you talk to parents. If these are kids or young teenagers, etc., you take the parents, and a lot of times it's the same traits. Like in some families, you have people that are kind of a little bit anxious, maybe tend to think a lot, and also have trouble sleeping. In other families, people are very kind of don't react too much, kind of very easygoing, and tend to have deeper sleep. So I do think that's familiar for sure. Cool. So that said, hope that helped, Dawn, and sorry for taking so long to answer that question. Any follow-up questions, as always, please hit me up with those. And with that said, let me see if I'm in the right email. I thought there was a particular question I wanted to answer first from Patrick. Let's see if I can find that. Oh, there it is. Cool. So this came in 9 hours ago, and it is from Patrick, who I know has asked the question before. But anyways, here's the question from Patrick. Hi, Daniel. Thanks very much for the information and videos. You helped me greatly over the past year. I'm really happy to hear that. Really happy. I still have occasional bouts that can linger because my anxiety gets so much worse without sleep, and that starts the worrying about sleep cycle again. Even when I'm sleeping well, sleep anxiety still looms over my head. What if I go back to a regular pattern of no sleep, etc.? What would you say is the best way to combat sleep anxiety? Good question. So here it is a question not so much about general anxiety, but more sleep anxiety. And so many of you that are tuning in here may be familiar with that. But what is sleep? Sleep anxiety is really when you don't have so much of the kind of general anxiety. You're particularly worried about sleep, and often that stems from a period of insomnia. I often use the analogy of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is insomnia can be a little bit like that. I mean, you had like this intense period of trouble sleeping, and then the fear of that coming back lingers for a long period of time. That's sleep anxiety in my mind. And so, what can you do about that? Well, I honestly think the best thing is focus on the positives. When things have been pretty stable, then focus on the fact that proves that you can sleep, and just keep going. I think that the more you don't react, the more you go through periods where you have less sleep and you don't do anything. You keep getting up at the same time. You don't try different things. That I believe that's the key to sleep anxiety. Meaning, when you prove to yourself that you can go through a period of having less sleep, having some rebound insomnia without reacting to it. When you see that you can go back to sleeping well without doing anything in particular, then you will not have that fear of losing sleep that is the driver of the sleep anxiety, and you will little by little sleep better again. I think that as kind of always when it comes to insomnia, the main thing is just keep going, don't react, and with time you will prove to yourself that you have nothing to fear. I think that's the best answer. I think that is the key to sleep anxiety. And again, I think I'm kind of like double down on this message. It is actually when you have had trouble sleeping and you again go through a period where you're sleeping less, that is actually the opportunity. That's the opportunity to finally get past sleep anxiety. Again, you've had trouble sleeping, you have trouble sleeping again. Don't react, keep doing what you're doing, focus in the other direction, don't think about it. Then you'll prove to yourself that you have nothing to fear. I believe that is the best way to get over sleep anxiety. Patrick, hope that helped. As always, any follow-up questions, please let me know. And with that said, I want to move. Actually, yeah, let's move to the comment section. There was a couple of questions there for us. I want to find Safari. There you are. And where am I? I had to prepare this before, but for some reason I'm not in the comment section. Let's just go back there and see what we find. Here I am. I'm logged in. That is good. And I know that I believe it was Sheldon. Yeah, here it is. Sheldon had a comment on Ask Time number 4. Thank you for the response. Your videos have helped me so much. Had a bad night last night, but I'm going to try and give it zero thought and move on. That's amazing, Sheldon. And that's exactly what one should do, I believe. So keep that one up. And now, oh, here it is. No, actually, Justin Glick commented saying that his life was completely destroyed by the concern of AFFI, but it didn't really have a question. So here it is. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place today. But CBTi had a comment on Insomnia Insight number 287, which was not necessarily a question, but I felt there was a lot to learn from this comment, and it's always something we can probably add to it that hopefully will bring value to anyone tuning in here. So this is a comment to Insomnia episode number 287. ZBZI wrote the following. Dear Daniel, I'm so happy that I found your channel. Really appreciate your work. Thank you for commenting. I've always had problems with sleep, but 2019, especially the last 4 to 5 weeks, have been particularly tough. I've tried so many different things, melatonin, meditation, therapy, consulted 2 different doctors, neither of who seem to think insomnia is a big deal and it's so common. But I always felt that that was not the right approach. Now I think CBTi is the way to go. I implemented it a few days ago, and although I don't see great improvement yet, currently averaging 4 to 4.5 hours of sleep, with 1 night of good sleep followed by a bad one, at least I'm noticing a change in my mindset. I used to get terribly upset in the middle of a sleepless night, crying, feeling broken, but for the last few days, I managed to remain calm and remind myself that I'd accomplished many different things after sleepless nights before, and that I would be fine even if I don't get any sleep at all. My only worry is that my sleep one is currently 11:30 p.m. until 6 a.m. and watch your Martin videos whenever I feel I need some emotional support. I'll be fine. Wish me luck. Sometimes you get a kind of this, how should I put it? Impression, like you get this feeling when reading a message, and reading this message, I think you're going to do great. There's so much clarity inside. You've been proactive. You created a sleep window. You're motivated. Everything's really, really good. I want to point out some important things here. One is, it's very natural when you have a problem to look for a solution, of course. And when the problem is I'm not getting enough sleep, then you want to get more sleep and you want to make sure you're getting there. So you kind of want to monitor your sleep. And you say you're currently averaging 4 to 4.5 hours of sleep. If that is just kind of your feeling, your sense of how much you're sleeping, I don't think that's a problem. You know, I use a sleep diary in clinic where I ask people to estimate how much to sleep. I think that's totally fine. On the other hand, if that 4 to 4 half hours estimation comes from kind of looking at the time and calculating, then something that can really help us to not do that. Actually, Martin, who you mentioned here, Martin Reed, REED, uh, told me something that I'll never forget. He said, I think it was in a video actually he made. He said, "When did you ever check the time overnight and feel like great about what you found? Like, that's so reassuring. I feel awesome." Checking the time overnight is almost always stressful, anxiety provoking. So always to avoid, in case you're doing that. I don't know if you're doing that. Now, the other thing was the pattern. You mentioned here that you get kind of a pattern of here, one night of good sleep followed by a bad one. Those patterns are super common, completely expected. Almost everyone has them. It could be, some people go through like, I have one poor night, then a better one, then a better one, then a poor night, or two good ones followed by a poor one, or something like that. Very, very common. And I believe, again, we shouldn't really speculate, but I think this may help you and anybody else, because when we understand why things are happening, they're not so mysterious anymore. I believe what happens is oftentimes there is either you sleep a little one night and then you have more sleep drive, you're more sleepy the following night, and then you sleep better, and then you kind of use up the sleep drive, then you sleep a little bit worse. Completely normal, just keep going and that will go away. Or sometimes what also happens is you sleep pretty good one night and that kind of builds your confidence, then you sleep good again, but then you start questioning like, oh, how long is this going to last? Am I going to have a relapse? Am I doing it right? And then you sleep poorly again. So those are some reasons why those patterns emerge. But again, completely expected. Everybody has them. Just keep going is the key. And yeah, I think that was good. And I'm really, really encouraged by kind of like the tone here of like, I'm trying to keep myself calm, remind myself I've done well without sleep before, et cetera, et cetera. ZBZI, I think you're on the right track for sure. Let me know if you have any more comments, questions, etc. Cool. And with that said, we're moving ahead quickly here. Oh, hey Grace, nice hearing from you. And okay, since you are here, Grace, there were actually a couple of things that I wanted to talk about after having talked to you the other day. One of them was this. Maybe I'll do a separate video on this, but kind of an insight is flexibility is not your friend. I was thinking of titling a video that flexibility is not your friend. What do I mean by that? I had this patient a couple of weeks ago that had classic kind of chronic insomnia, went down the the rabbit hole and all that, but was happy that she had a flexible job. She could get a job at 10 or even 11 a.m. So at least that was something that was working in her favor. She was very happy because in her mind she was thinking, what if I didn't have that flexibility? What if I had to be at work at this early hour, right? She felt that was a good thing. Same thing I think with Grace. You were out of high school, now taking kind of college courses online, which offers some flexibility. That can seem like a good thing, but it actually hurts you more than helps. That what you feel is good, the flexibility often hurts you more than it helps, because if you're not getting up that same time every morning, if you have that flexibility, you tend to sleep in, and then your whole circadian rhythm shifts, then you can't sleep at night, then you sleep in again, etc. So flexibility is often not your friend, was something I wanted to mention. And Grace, there was one more thing I felt was like something to point out from that talk. It will come to me later. So with that said, there were two questions from Vince, I believe. And let's read the first one. This came in only 3 hours ago. Thanks for answering my question. I have a little positive news. I no longer obsess that much about my insomnia. That is amazing. That's amazing. I don't know how long we've been in touch, Vince, but I feel it's been at least like 2 months. And I think that's the first time I hear you say you're obsessing a little bit less about your insomnia. And I haven't. I know I just read the second sentence here, but I'm really excited because the first step, really the first step that I so commonly encounter toward when people go towards sleeping better is like, I worry a little less. That is, it doesn't seem like a big step, but it is a really big step because the next one is better sleep, and kind of the final one is feeling less fatigued usually. So that's awesome. Now, I just do my sleep restriction and let it be. My question is, I'm probably in eighth day of my sleep restriction, and I still can't fall asleep. I think my body's getting used to not sleeping 12 midnight, but waking up at 5:30 a.m. I'll lay in bed at midnight, take my medication, although then not sleepy, take my chance of sleeping. Of the 8 days of sleep restriction, I don't feel sleepy enough to sleep, question mark. Is there something wrong with me? I remember you telling me of your subscriber Ellen that did 5 weeks of sleep restriction before sleeping well. And also you told me you have a client that did sleep restriction for 2 months before they showed any progress, right? What's your advice for me? Um, yeah, I think again, I'm super excited to hear that you're not obsessing so much about insomnia. That is really good, and that you're doing other things. It seems like you're kind of like shifting away from sleep, and it's again, keep going is the key. Like just keep going. Don't as much as possible. Don't try to question if you're doing it right or if you do something different or what's going to happen if, but that's like just keep going. And 8 days is very early. It's very early of consistent sleep restriction. And yeah, just keep in touch and keep going. I think that's awesome. And there was another follow-up question. Sorry for asking another question. My main problem is even though I do my sleep prescription for 8 days, even if I relax and watch TV until it's 2 a.m., which is 2 hours past 12 midnight, I don't get sleepy. I'm not expecting to sleep because I know just a sleep effort, just relax and wait for it. But still, I don't feel sleepy this past couple days, even though I fall asleep with a question mark. Yep. The lack of sleepiness is a classic hyperarousal thing. And again, same as everything else. Like the more you try to figure out why it's happening, the more you think about it, the more it kind of empowers the hyperarousal and insomnia. So I think the best thing to do is always just set it and forget it. And I think I think Vincent, a good strategy would be to be like, um, just like today is what's today, Thursday. Let's like, okay, in 1 week maybe check in with me and see how you're doing. But beyond that, do like a sleep detox. Maybe consider a sleep detox. Just like don't read about sleep, don't think about sleep, don't do anything related to sleep. Just do the sleep window, and that could really be a great strategy for you. And as I was reading that, Grace wrote the following here live. This is really cool. This is the first time we're having kind of a live thing going here. Very good point. I believe I had sleep misperception, like we discussed before. I can remember having dreams throughout the night, but I still have some of that odd misperception feeling. That being said, I've been trying to practice CBTi and getting up earlier and such, and I've noticed some improvements. That's awesome. That is amazing. I'm super happy. So excited about that because um, it can take a while. Like we just talked about with Vince, there are some people who are like literally like 5 weeks, 6 weeks later. Don't see much improvement, and so like it's always good to celebrate improvement. Like use that as evidence that you can sleep, that things are working, and so forth. That's really cool. And then Grace says here, I'm also going to follow up and try to get some medication that might help with anxiety. I have PTSD that my counselor believes may be contributing to this. Um, yeah, I think anxiety is not my strong suit. Um, I believe some general points with any medication that are used for like anxiety, depression, insomnia, etc., is like uh, the problem I feel with medications for particularly for insomnia, but I believe this applies even to like any else like PTSD, panic attacks, anxiety, depression, etc. Is when people start taking medications, they tend to ascribe any positives to the medication And I think it's really good to like just consider medication kind of supplement or like a little help maybe. But if somebody goes on any medication and any positive happens, like take ownership of it, like make it like, no, I did that, not medication, I did that. That's really helpful. I feel with everything. But yeah, if you're less anxious, for sure, you'll sleep better. Absolutely. But again, like, you did CBTi and you've noticed some improvement. The amazing thing with that is that it's all you. Like, you just made habit changes. You did some learning, some unlearning, and habit changes, and you're sleeping a little bit better. You have full ownership of that. Nothing from the outside did that. That's why it's so powerful. So when you have trouble sleeping, like let's say you get do really well, and then in the future you have some trouble sleeping, you can do the same thing again. You can rely on your own confidence, your own ability, yourself. Versus somebody who has taken sleep medications, then they have some trouble sleeping, then they look to the outside for a solution again. So yeah, just some general thoughts there. So Grace, thanks so much for your comments. And I don't have any more questions to go over today, so I'll end here. And I will probably be back with some little insight tomorrow, and I will be back answering questions on Monday. So until I will be back next time, take it easy.